What's up, y'all? Rich Slayton here with another Best of 5 in Clash Royale East versus West editions. Before we get to the match, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, leave a comment for what other matches you want to see, and never miss a great Best of 5 tournament, whatever it might be, here on my YouTube channel. Today, like I said, more East versus West action. I can't wait for CRL World Finals. Well, let's get some of those guys going head-to-head right now. This is going to be a rookie versus rookie battle from the West. Misfits BobTheRock, the Dutchman, who's been one of the top 2v2 players in semi-pro, now trying to find his way through CRL. On the other side, the Russian Paradox of TTG. They are out of the CRL East playoffs, so he's looking for some more action. How'd this come together? I saw Bob post that he wanted a BO5 somebody for a bet today for money, and I said, look, I'll sponsor this and I'll host the game. So Paradox said yes, here we are. Let's jump right into the action. Misfits, BobTheRock, TTG's Paradox, Best of 5. Here we go. BobTheRock against Paradox, CRL West versus CRL East. Bans, as you can see, Lava Hound and Bomb Tower. And Spear Goblins from Paradox, most likely running. Yeah, it's feeling more and more like it's going to be that. Skeleton, but no, color me wrong. Barb Hut comes out, and it's a 6-man split 3-3 for BobTheRock. The Dutchman from Misfits Gaming, who was brought in primarily as a 2v2 player, and of course Misfits has been shifting their 2v2 around back and forth. We'll see if he ends up in that set one more time. And that's a lot of fireball value given up by the Dutchman to the Russian player Paradox, who's been in CRL East this season. And the way this match unfolded, of course. Two players looking to win a little bit of cash and maybe take some heads for their mantelpieces. Musketeer cycles to the left-hand side. Paradox with an interesting deck so far. Except for the Fireball, a lot of pieces would make me feel like it could be going in the direction of Graveyard, but maybe this is a Royal Giant deck. And there you go, the piggies from Bob to the left-hand side, and Barb Hut, no elixir, not in cycle, etc., etc. Still not a bad spend on the defensive side from Paradox. Comes out on top in elixir and going to force Bob to put some pressure opposite direction, and it's Royal Hogs from Paradox, and that makes a lot of sense. Magic Archer cleans that one up, first 2 minutes away. The white-haired wizard. You gotta say that Magic Archer's kind of a wizard, right? Goes to the right-hand side, 3-3 split one more time from Bob. A lot of Royal Hogs decks in the game right now. Kind of alternating between the Royal Recruits and the Goblin Cage as the control piece. This time the Fireball gets a little bit less value from Paradox than it did in the opening version that looked very similar. But now BobTheRock does have dual lane damage. That's what this deck does. It creates pressure in both lanes consistently, and you can see Bob getting back to this the 6-6 or the 6-man 3-3 split over and over again. Good log out of Bob. And again, if Paradox can get back to this Fireball before that Fisherman gets away, and he can't, so that changes things a lot. That Magic Archer going to do a whole lot for BobTheRock. That's a huge advantage, that Magic Archer. And still on the board, Musketeer does finally take it off, but that Magic Archer hung out for a long time and created a lot of trouble there for Paradox. We saw some brilliant Magic Archer coverage this last weekend in CRL. I believe it was Igor, if I remember correctly, who was keeping his Magic Archer on the board for, oh, I don't know, about 17 years. I'll have to double check on who that was. But there was just no way to get there. It was Javi Catorze, that's who it was. Javi against La Bacati. SK Gaming has been brilliant. You saw how long Javi kept that Magic Archer on the board. Bob trying to do similar things here. Paradox having a bit better chance of getting to it, and of course, having a fireball certainly helps out. Final minute, pigs go both directions, still pretty tight, but so far this has been mostly the story of Bob's pressure, although some good damage coming in on the right-hand side. The recruits have just been very frustrating for Paradox. Because of the way that Bob can protect that Magic Archer, it's forced the Fireball to go to the Magic Archer, which means that Paradox hasn't had a good answer for the Royal Hogs. So you talk about Fireball bait decks, and Magic Archer and Royal Hogs pairing together very well because of that. But by having no other route to the Magic Archer, that gives the real significant value here. And that could have been a fun, cheeky Heal Spirit finish, which you don't see very often. Instead, BobTheRock able to hold on here in game number 1. I mean, Paradox able to hold off the cheeky finish there. And so now we have the first game win. BobTheRock up 1-0. Let's jump right into game number 2. Reminder, Bomb Tower and Lava Hound, the bans for this one. Let's see if he's going pigs one more time. Royal Ghost might be one of the more compelling changes to a card. I mean, you talk about reworks, and this hover mechanic I would say is almost a rework for the Royal Giant more than, or for the Royal Ghost more than just a mechanic shift or a buff, whatever you want to call it. It really does change the Royal Ghost drastically. Looking like it's going to be Ram Rider for Bob. We'll see if that ends up being the truth. Paradox going Barb Hut back-to-back games, and here you go, Ram Rider to the left-hand side. Ewiz will come down to slow it, but you're still going to get some Ram Rider connection on the left. Bob, more Elixir in the hole, but Paradox has a lot on the board. Inferno Dragon staying on the board for a long time. This is going to end up being good, and that's brilliant for Bob. If he can get something to support this Inferno Dragon here, he might decide not to and just get to 10 and let that be a distraction there. There you go. Not going to support. Rather sets up for his next push and now has a nice little Elixir advantage on the board. This is very, very good for him. Able to get the Mega Knight in front of that Ewiz. And oh no. Oh boy. Paradox gives the oops out immediately. Misplayed poison. That's going to put him way behind on Elixir. Give a lot of good damage to his opponent. And right now, it's the Dutchman. Way out to the lead. The Russian here with a critical error that he could not give up. This will get curious as time goes on, though, because of what I'm assuming is Graveyard from Paradox in this case. There you go. There comes the GY. This is what Bob has to do. We talk a lot in CRL about setting the line high, not letting tanks get across, especially in a situation where you don't have a particularly excellent counter to the Graveyard. That becomes even more important. You need to give those defensive troops the ability to play against the Graveyard skeletons on their own. And this time, that Ram Rider's going to get a big connection. That's a huge connection on the left-hand side. 12:22 remaining. Bob running away with this one. The poison misplay from Paradox was huge. And Bob defending correctly in a situation where he doesn't have all the best pieces for a Graveyard defense. And that's, oh, and you see the oops coming out from Bob. He thought that Ewiz was going to take a half-tile step forward, and it doesn't. So the Ewiz does not get touched at all by that fireball, and this is going to make things a little difficult here for Bob. Was completely in control, but now has a lot of tankage coming across the board. Luckily for him, Princess Tower was helping with the skeletons rather than focusing on the tanks. But he's going to take a good chunk of damage here, and that lead is going to completely disappear, it looks like. There you go. 1289 to 1222 with 1:15 left. And now it's just Paradox's turn to turn up the heat. He's going to take the lead here by maybe a bit more, and that now you're seeing the problem of not having any true graveyard counter and giving up that advantage that he built. Paradox now in control in triple elixir. This is going to be very hard because Paradox can just sit on that. I'm surprised playing the bar cut early here and playing it offset away from that left-hand side. You're see the Royal Ghost come down. Knight pulls in and just go ahead and drop that Ram Rider right behind. Watch this. Here comes the Ram Rider. You know, I guess I get it wrong. He's playing more defense here. I don't know why he's waiting this long. I'm going to go Ghost again. Interesting. Maybe he's trying to get that hut out of the way first, but it's not going to happen. And there we go. Mega Knight goes to the Barb Hut. Now another Mega Knight at the bridge. Bob has to just sell out and throw the Ram Rider here. Can't do it. And this is going to be a come-from-behind win from Paradox, despite the big misplay with the poison. One E-Wiz doesn't get caught by the fireball in the opposite direction, and suddenly you go from a quick 2-0 opening on the part of BobTheRock to a 1-1 split. So first two games in the book, and so far, not mistake-free gameplay. Really feel like Bob should have been able to go up 2-0 there, but it was a rough matchup, and you can't make the kind of mistake he did in that kind of matchup. So we'll see what Bob goes to. In game number 3, just getting this next one all sorted out. And here we go. Heal Spirit, despite the nerf, still pretty much everywhere. Still gives a ton of value. Still great for cycle. You see why it's still popular even with the nerf. A range reduction nerf and a health nerf. Still useful in so many decks, so many archetypes, and Barb Hut again from Paradox. 3 Barb Hut decks in a row from the Russian. Very, very interesting choices here from the TTG player. Of course, if you were watching CRL East this season, TTG did end up at the bottom of the table, 4-10 on the season. Not that dissimilar from where Misfits is right now, also at the bottom of the table, unable to find their way into the winner's circle. So back to the same deck from game 1 is Paradox. Bob going with a very, very popular graveyard deck right now. This is a graveyard freeze deck. I don't know how it matches up against this Royal Hogs deck in particular. It does very well against Balloon Cycle. But I have not seen it played against this Royal Hogs deck. The Spear Goblins do give some more viability and the ability to Spear Goblin and Heal Spirit to keep them up. If Paradox can do that correctly, he can certainly defend pretty well, but the freeze is going to make things very complicated. So there you see the Spear Goblins, and that's not a good freeze out of Bob, going for the Musketeer. But she was distracted. That freeze needed to go to the Spear Goblins. And And now Paradox is set up with the Barb Hut on the right-hand side. So be curious to see how Bob chooses to defend against Paradox's Royal Hogs as time goes on. And you see a good game coming out from Bob. I think he knows that this is going to be a real uphill battle for him. 2 Barb Huts down. Paradox completely in control. Bob's going to try to pressure the opposite side. But those spears low, skeletons high. That's a much better freeze, but the log can clean it up. And then the heal spirit comes in, keeps one more spear goblin up, and there you go. And I don't know how Paradox, or how Bob defends against these Royal Hogs. All he can do is slow him down. He can't actually stop the damage. His best option is a defensive freeze, but what's that going to do? Final 90 seconds and more pressure in from the Russian, and there you go. There goes the defensive freeze, trying to pin some of that up, but now Fireball can come in, get rid of the Fisherman, and that Musketeer is going to get protected. Doesn't quite pick up the Barbarian, and that Musketeer doesn't get the shot that Paradox expected. Final 70 seconds about to happen, final 75 at the moment, and here you go. Pigs, Heal Spirit, no way to take care of the Heal Spirit because the Barbarrel's not available. Freeze on defense, but it's just a matter of time right now. Paradox about to take a 2-1 lead in this best of 5, 195 on the right-hand side. This is a pretty big push the opposite direction, but Fireball, Log, GG, well played. There you have it. The Russian now going to be up 2-0 in this best of 5. And guys, you might hear that I'm a little bit more relaxed in my casting. Well, it's Baby Boy Slayton's nap time, so I'm trying not to yell into the room right next door. So Paradox with match point right now against BobTheRock. We'll see if he can pull it out. Paradox, of course, made it to the top 4 in the No Tilt World Championship. Was already starting to get some notice before that, but I think that really launched him onto the international stage in terms of attention. Before that, played in a lot of smaller leagues. Liga Bandita, the GG Series. But making the top 8 of the No Tilt World Championship was such a hard thing to do. You have to win the 20-win challenge and then go through the gauntlet that was Stage 2, winning 9 BO3s in a row, plus 2 BO5s. Then make it to the top 4 of your group stage, which was absolutely difficult to do. So even making the top 8 was hard, making the top 4. Top tier achievement for the Russian. His time at TTG yet. And CRL West just didn't turn into the same level of success that he was experiencing. So now it's Bob's turn to go Barb Hut Paradox. Looking like Graveyard. I don't know, Log makes that weird. Could be Graveyard. Yeah, I think that's what we're going with here. E-Wiz, Archers, Goblin Cage, Knight. And this might be Bob running the... Is this the Graveyard Battle Healer deck out of BobTheRock? And there you go. Graveyard in. Fire Spirits for Paradox. Okay, now I don't know what he's doing. Fire Spirits are an interesting wrinkle here. No Battle Healer for Bob. Not yet, at least. And since we've only seen... we've seen no damage-dealing spells, it's Royal Giant for Paradox. Interesting RG deck. You don't see Fire Spirits in many decks these days. Really anything, except for middle of ladder. So very curious to see what Paradox does with the Fire Spirits here. What's the target for the Fire Spirits in this case? Maybe in response to when the Barb Huts pop on the side of BobTheRock? Both these guys performed fairly well in the No-Tilt World Championship. Of course, Paradox came out way ahead on that one, but Bob did make it pretty deep in Stage 2 twice, once qualifying for the top 4 of Stage 2 for the broadcast. Wasn't able to break through on the end. Barbhut's going to make things really hard for this Royal Giant to break through. Between Barbhut and Uiz, as long as Bob doesn't get caught wanting for Elixir, he should be able to defend these Royal Giants fairly easily. And that's a great Barb Barrel out of Bob. Takes care of some Fire Spirits, gets deep into the territory, sets up another Barbhut. And that RG right back in. So here you go, Bob setting up for his next graveyard push to the left-hand side. Fire Spirits should be the response to these Barbarians. Going to go with Fireball instead, and actually that was a ton of Fireball value. Bob just stacked all that up together. He kind of had to defend against the Royal Giant, but still, that was a ton. And here come the Fire Spirits with a little bit of defensive help. Hey, they add a lot of damage and are valuable for cycle. Barbhut in response to the Royal Giant. Might Barb Barrel here to get himself at the Archers behind, instead choose the DPS them up, saving that Barb Barrel for the Fire Spirits. It looks like, I don't know about that Fireball, and Paradox doesn't either. And the Barb Barrel tries to predict the Fire Spirits, but instead Paradox plays them low. Bob ahead on Elixir against Paradox right now, but both guys, I guess you'd say Paradox's mistake there was more than Bob trying to go for a prediction and not quite getting it there. And now, way ahead on Elixir is the Misfits rookie. Fireball comes in high to work on the support troops. Fire Spirit's trying to help on the graveyard, but that's going to be a huge chunk of damage, and that's a pretty big lead now. I don't know about that Barb Barrel. Bob, though, does get enough defense down against this Royal Giant. It should go down without a shot here, and it does. These are strange bridge battles going on between Bob and Paradox right now. Final 30 seconds, Barb Barrel to the right-hand side. And Bob again goes with the high Barbhut. Final 15, 1848 to 1287. Paradox needs to put the pressure on if he wants to extend this one. He wants to steal this one in the final moments. Barbhut should be available though. Not going to be any issues here. And no way to break through for Paradox. We're going to a game 5. So you wanted a BO5, you're getting a full-on best of 5. Between these two CRL rookies, East versus West. The Netherlands versus Russia. And we're going all the way to the end. Very curious here what they go with in the end, but a ton of Barbhut so far in this matchup. It's been played every single game of this best of 5 so far. Would love to see it not played in game number 5, but we'll see what happens. Both these guys have a decent number of accolades between Paradox's performance in the No-Tilt World Championship and, of course, his 8K personal best, 8,016 on ladder. Both these guys certainly can play pretty well. Bob on the other side, before coming into CRL, had some great performances in the semi-pro and the semi-pro leagues. Was phenomenal in CCS in the Clash Contender Series with LA Gaming, where he partnered as the 2v2 duo with Belican. Of course, as we've talked about before on CRL broadcast, Belican wanted to bring him along with him to a CRL team, couldn't make it happen. They got split up. Was solid with Cream Royale Betis in Orange Crown League. Maybe a bit surprising that Cream decided not to bring him in, but obviously their 2v2 duo of Diego E and Michifu has been phenomenal. Was good in No Tilt League. Just hasn't quite turned into what he wanted with Misfits yet. And here we go, game number 5. And as I was talking about with BobTheRock, pretty solid individual performances too. First place finish in the global tournament, and plus a second place finish on top of it. Best finish on ladder, I believe, is number 4 You make a top 10 finish at any point, that's pretty darn good. And then solid places in the Bren Chong Cup and the CWA Cup, Game History Cup, all those Revel Amar Cups. Consistent, good performances there from Bob. So you understand why Misfits picked him up. But you're seeing the difference in, you know, well-practiced 2v2 duos versus 2v2 duos that are coming together for the first time and playing at this level for the first time. So Bob, while certainly a talented player, maybe doesn't really have the runway to get spun up to the correct level for CRL as far as 2v2 goes. Looking like it's going to be Graveyard for Bob. Maybe the same thing for Paradox here with the Snowball, which has become much more popular as a part of Graveyard. When you think about Graveyard paired spells, the Barb Barrel is the most common one you think of because of that cheap 7 elixir push you get. Barb Barrel Graveyard, Tank, GY, there you go. But the Snowball's become more popular. No, it's going to be Balloon Cycle for Paradox. Going with the alternative variation of the 6 Loon with the Barb Barrel instead of the Royal Recruits. Some interesting shift here for the Russian. As I was saying about the Snowball and the Graveyard, though, Snowball giving a little bit extra room for those skeletons to get on tower, playing against the defenses. And here you go, first Graveyard in with a Barbarian tanking for Bob on the left-hand side. And a little of an oops, maybe a bit of a BM here from the Netherlander. The Dutchman taking the first big chunk out in our game number 5. 2 minutes away, 1287 on the left-hand tower, and pretty even on elixir are these two. Paradox sets up his cage to the left. And this is one of those situations where, you know, Paradox would love to have gone with the Royal Recruits rather than the Barb Barrel. He might be able to get through here with the Snowball and get a bridged up shot, and he does. So with that, Paradox will take the lead, but Bob does have the dual lane pressure up and switch lanes pretty easily. Good protection on the Musketeer, does keep her alive. No, the Baby Dragon Splash Lumberjack wanders a bit too close in that one. Bob does not have the elixir for the poison on the right-hand side, so he's trying to just get a tank Graveyard. And now goes with the poison late because the minions are there, and he can get his Mega Minion on tower. Snowball trying to stop that from happening. If that Musketeer went down, that would have been practically a GG there. Musketeer does stay alive, though. So rather than rocket out ahead, Bob just does take the lead. Barb Barrel cycle for Paradox on the right-hand side, and now he's trying to steal the game with a Lumberloon push on the left. Graveyard should take it before that can happen, though, and it does. BobTheRock secures it in 5. GG, well played. Great performance by the Netherlander on the back end. Both players with some missteps early on, but a big win there for Bob in the end. So that's it. BobTheRock winning this one in 5. Fun for me to cast. I hope you enjoyed it as well. A little more cool vibe because Baby Boy Slayton's asleep in the very next room. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, guys. Like the video. Comment with other matches that you might want to see. I'll try to make it happen, man. I want them all to happen right here. And, of course, I'll see you next time right here at the best place for Clash Royale esports.